This one, they are the definition of outsiders. Just a lot of things favoring the Fener in this one.
Yeah, well, besides the fact that Fener is being favored, we got to say that there is a lot to talk about when you're thinking about it. First of all, yes, as we speak, I'm guessing that the players of both Madrid and Cesca are stepping on the court, but it was a big disappointing performances for them, anyways, in the semifinals. But it all comes down to this, guys. 40 minutes of pure, intense basketball could be more, obviously. But I do not see this game going to overtime. I may be mistaken. It has happened before.
Twice in recent years. And a quick message to those just joining us now on YouTube. Sorry for the temporary technical delay. Thank you for joining us now on YouTube with EuroHoopsNet, EuroHoops TV, obviously. And looking at these matchups, there's so much to look at here. You've got the backcourts initially, obviously. Vasilis Banoulis, who's going to be going after him? The talk is Ekpe Udo is going to be on lockdown mode against him. Can Ekpe shut down Billy for 40 minutes?
Well, they will definitely try to wear him down. Just wear Spanolis down. This is a priority for Fenerbahce because Olympiacos will try to keep the game close as they did with Cesca, and then setting the stage for Spanolis to do the magic. So that's their priority. Wear Spanolis down, and I think they will for Olympiacos to prevent this. They need to play the PNR situations from Printezis so that Euro can't be switched on Spanos because basically he's the best big in Europe right now.
And looking at the Spanoulis and the other two parts of the Greek big three, Printezis and Papanikolaou, on Friday all three had foul trouble for large parts of that game.
Yeah.
That could come into play here, Moshe, couldn't it? If the key players get into high fouls early.
Well, basically, what we've seen on Friday was the fact that Sferopoulos chose to go with Printezis. Pretty much every possession, we saw that the first option on the offensive end was putting the ball in Printezis' hands, trying to post up where, whoever, whenever, whatever happens, that was the first go-to move. And that was because the first, I think, 5 or 6 three-point attempts did not go in. Now, we got to make it clear, these were great open looks. The shot selection was great. The balls were not going in, and that was too bad. But everything kind of turned out to be okay afterwards. Now you mentioned Udo. Udo is going to have perhaps the biggest part in this game, and that's why I think that Coach Sferopoulos should target him more than Fener's backcourt, because as soon as he gets Udo out of the equation, that means that the paint should be quite open. Good things will happen. Now, how do you do that?
How do you get Udo out of the equation? I was going to say.
Would you agree with me if I say Olympiacos among these three teams, Real, Cesca, and Olympiacos, they have the best possibility of matching up with Udo and Vasily?
Yes,
absolutely.
I agree, and I will say why. This is exactly what I wanted to mention. The thing is, we said that Olympiacos have the biggest advantage over Cesca at the 5 position. Why? Because they had lots of possibilities, much more depth in regarding to having just Kyle Hines and maybe some guys at the 4 playing the 5 in small ball lineups, which with Kyle it's either way small ball lineups. But with Fener, the one thing that stood out the most was the fact that the guy was playing over 36 minutes that night. He was brought down to the point of exhaustion just to make it to the finals. Now, the thing is, it's not like playing NBA playoffs, with all due respect, where this is the most intense thing you can do in over just one weekend. Now, moving on forward, not just being exhausted, he needed the rest. Now, the question is, how well can he recover from it when you have 3 big men with simply Young waiting to enter beast mode? And I know Young could have potentially a great part in taking Udo out of the equation.
And the key thing with those 3 big men is you look at Nikola Milutinov, you look at Ken Birch, and you look at Patrick Young. Actually, 2 key things, because I was going to mention the obvious part, which is they're very different players to each other. But also, they all got decent rest in that game against Cesca. None of them. Maybe Ken was a little tired at the end of it, but Pat Young, Nikola Milutinov, they both looked pretty okay at the end of the game, and Ken Birch did not look anywhere near as tired as Ekpe looked.
They have to utilize Nikola Milutinov today. They
Yeah,
have to. But how?
So
that's the question.
That's what I think. Now, usually I know that Coach Sferopoulos likes to use Ken Birch as the first option, maybe the second. I do believe that this game should be the other way around. He should use him maybe as the 3rd guy coming off the bench, and that's what I refer to as units division. Now, you got to have a first unit. It depends. Either you want to rough Udo up first, and for that mission you got to use obviously Patrick Young, because he's the more muscular, the more strong guy in terms of physicality. Now, he may have a shorter wingspan than the other 2 guys, but in terms of simply brute force.
Yeah, he's
the
going
guy
to tire them out. He might
Exactly.
necessarily get the stats, but he's going to do a lot of damage.
Exactly. This is my point. So either you go with him as first unit and Milutinov coming off the bench to do some more damage when Udo's trying to catch a breather, or you start with Udo with obviously Milutinov and then go to Patrick Young, because if Milutinov is going to get a first foul, maybe second foul from Udo, things might be a bit more easier for Young on the offensive end. And if Oli can get two big men into the statistic equation, now we're talking a whole new different ballgame.
And now one player we didn't talk that much about after the game on Friday, obviously Mehdi wasn't with it, but he's not surprised to hear this, was Bogdan Bogdanovic, because Bogdan had a very quiet game on Friday, and it was one of the biggest games in the history of this club. He is not the type of guy to let that slide. Like, if it's a time for Bogdan to step up in what's likely to be his last EuroLeague game before he goes to the NBA, if the rumors are true, you've got to think it's now.
I mean, it should be now, but I do think Olympiacos has the best weapons to defend Bogdanovic well, especially matching up with Kostas Papanikolaou. I think he will chase him well. I'm not sure Bogdanovic will be the key player for Fener to win it today, because generally Bogdanovic is more of an efficient scorer when they're playing their sets. The sets game. But today, with the home court advantage, I think Željko Obradović and Fener will push the tempo. They will try to make it more of an open floor game, trying to accelerate the pace, unlike Real Madrid's game. So I don't think Bogdanovic will be that careful player today.
So if that's the case, Moshe, you've got to be thinking that's going to be a whole lot of Bobby Dixon.
Well, Bobby Dixon is he's a great guy. He's a very well character-driven, very strong mentality, but if his shots are going to go in, that's great for Fener. But if they're going to go out, that means they will have to be very much dependent on either Kostas Lukas or obviously Bogdanovic. Now, I do believe that Bogdanovic also has a substantial part in his game, and this is why. In last year's game, in the finals game, he was very good throughout the season, obviously coming to the semis, but then something happened. Actually in the final game, because what happened was when Ceska were playing on D, they denied the ball from him, and when he saw that he's not getting even the chance to touch the ball, he started thinking
he's not really great of a player who
but
off the ball.
Exactly. So what I think was he simply tried to force himself off the game 3 minutes into it when he didn't actually touch the ball very much. So his first shot was not the best of shots that he was taken out of the rhythm real quick. And this could prove to be very much substantial and in game plan that could make all the difference. Now, you've mentioned Kostas Papanikolaou. Kostas Papanikolaou before the NBA was a great player. Obviously, he was a good defender. He was I don't want to say the barometer, but he did some great stuff. He was the one to entice the team to get them all together alongside Printezis and Billy. Now, with him, he could score, like you say, he can play the D. Now, I do believe that him simply doing a bit of damage for when Kalinic is on court, because Kalinic is, he goes under the radar sometimes. He doesn't get enough. He doesn't get enough credit for the job he does, because everyone's saying, he may not be the best shooter, he may not be the best scorer, but still, that's not what he was brought up to do. When he came to Fener to become a part of a fighting team. He was the guy that was supposed to come for special missions, whether it was to stop defensively someone, or if he's managing to get a few points on the board, that's even better.
Yeah, he's there to do a certain job, and that job is far more defensive than offensive, it's got to be said. Now, looking at the names we aren't talking about yet, it's all of the bench guys, and they're going to be so crucial in this. You look at the two Greek bench guys, obviously, for Olympiacos, Papapetrou and Manzaris. Well, Manzaris, of course, might start, but what? And Agravanis, of course, as well, who came up really big in the semi-final. They're going to have good nights, not so-so nights. They're going to have good nights.
That's the point. I think one of the most important points to discuss about this game, they have to keep it close, right? As I mentioned, to set the stage for Spanol's heroics. How are they going to do that? In Ceska game, they did it by draining 14 threes, which tied the EuroLeague semi-final record. Will they drain 14 threes today? Will they be able to execute that well?
Not necessarily, but I do think that they do have the weapons. Listen, Dominic Waters did not get much playing time. I know he might not be, coaches Ferropoulos' favorite, guy to go on the court, obviously. But it is another player that can give minutes. Should someone get into foul trouble, he's the one that can, go into that second. When you got the last possession and you've got fouls to give, that's another guy you can use. And you have him, you have Eric Green that we haven't discussed. There is Jan Vesely on the Fener side that I really want to talk about him because
course, yeah.
he can make the difference. But seriously, on a finals game with Vesely, I would send him to the line, like every time. Now, if there is anything else I would do, now, Meta, I'm sure you will agree with me. We've seen guys like Joe Alexander from Maccabi Tel Aviv bullying him into the paint, taking him to the penetrating on him. We've seen a lot of guys simply utilizing the fact that he's got a very thin frame, and whenever he goes off balance, he doesn't like it. He doesn't like to go off balance, and he drives him crazy. Well, not to the point of going berserk or ballistic, but to the point where it interferes with him playing his comfortable piece of state of mind, pretty much.
Yeah,
throughout the game.
but Vesely, though, we saw more confidence from him on Friday than we have in any of his previous Final Four appearances. Like, he was there in Madrid, he was there in Berlin. Berlin, he was playing hurt. Like, on Friday, you could see he was lit from the start, and that energy made a huge difference in the opening moments of that clash at Madrid, and helped set the tone. And you mentioned Vesely. Alongside him, you need to see him and Datome really step up because Fener are going with a pretty shallow rotation. We're not going to see Meli Matmadolu very much. We're not going to see much of Pero Antic of it all. Anthony Bennett, we're only going to see if this is a blowout. You look at, and you're kind of going, this, and like, again, Amadou Verdioglu, we're probably not going to see much of him either. Like, they're going to go with a pretty shallow rotation. So even James Nunnally, Gigi, Vesely, in the time they have on the floor, they've got to do an awful lot.
Yeah, but about Nunnally, they will have to utilize his size because Nunnally is not a shooting guard. He's actually a 3. He's more of a 3, and he's being utilized as a 2 throughout the season for a specific purpose because he's got size advantage over other guys. Exactly. So, but besides that, I do think that with the tempo, right? The tempo is going to be one of the main issues here. If Oli is it's not going to be like Cheska, okay? If Oli, they could have allowed Cheska go up by a double digit. If they will let Fener go by double digits, exactly, there will be no comeback.
Yeah. And like that's the thing, that the tempo is going to be so important because against Efes they were able to sort of reel them in after the hot starts. Like, game 4 in particular in that series when like Efes just went off like an absolute train. And Oli were there, that's okay, let them burn themselves out, we can catch them up. They can't be certain Fener are going to burn themselves out with that hot start, and that's the big fear for Oli in this game for sure. Now, you look at the two guys in the sideline, this is going to have to be an awful lot of adjustments in the process. Saropoulos, we probably talked more about his adjustments already, but in terms of surely the number of players he's got. For Zach, Zelko Obradovic, and obviously there is that little bit of niggle we'll get to in a second, but like how much is his movement of rotations really going to matter in this game, Moshe?
Well, rotation obviously, when you're playing a game that could potentially go to overtime, that means that every player you can utilize is important because whenever you're big guys that having the not like figuratively speaking, obviously, when your stars they need to catch a breather. That's where the bench players come in, and a wide rotation, especially in an intense season like the one we've just experienced, they are priceless. Now, that's the good thing for Oli because Olympiacos have used pretty much all their bench throughout the season. We've seen Dominic Waters, we've seen Eric Green, we've seen...
They go like 9-11 deep.
Exactly.
Like, yeah.
You're seeing Manzaris, Papa Petri, you're seeing Ragovanis. All the local talent guys are there. So, like I said, in terms of if we're going to go the distance and in a pound-for-pound game, like a for exchanging baskets, yes, I do believe that Olympiacos would have the edge simply for utilizing all their guys throughout the season, which means they are prepared to get to be fed from 2 minutes of playing time or 3 or 4 or 6 or whatever.
And that was the thing Patrick Young said to me before this tournament even started. Like, he had to learn to adjust to smaller minutes and he had to adjust his game to that, to know that he's got to be able to do more in less time. And so that's the thing, the OD players are used to that, not so much with the Fener guys obviously because their bench players often just stay there essentially. Now you look at like Zach in this game, like
we never talked about Nikola Kalinic.
Oh, we will get there.
He came up pretty huge one more time for Fener.
And again, he's going to get a lot of minutes because he had the most minutes on Friday night.
Yeah, and Zelko Obradovic likes to play small forward with Kalinic at the 4.
Yeah, because he's like he's a defender.
Yeah,
like we said, he came for a reason. Like I said, he did not came to score points. If you get him to score, that's great. I mean, that's a big plus. But whenever you got a guy that can play the D like that, it doesn't matter. He doesn't have no ego. He's coming simply to put on the work.
And Meta, you look at Kalinic as a defender. Like, what do you think is going to be his chief assignment tonight?
Oh.
Because it is a tough call, like, really.
I would go with Papa Nicolau for me.
Gokan has been the terrific defender throughout his career, but I think what is more important that when you put Nikola Kalinic on the floor, you expect from the defensive side, for example, in this case, Real Madrid and Olympiacos, you would expect from them to blindside Nikola Kalinic's shot because he's been shooting like 35% from the three, but Fener doesn't do that. They immediately go at Kalinic and wants him to shoot the ball, and he's been shooting pretty well.
Yeah.
During the Final Four. So I think his chief assignment will be again a defensive play, but at the same time they will try to utilize him on the offense as well, because basically the more people you get more involved in the game, the better you have a chance.
Well, I gotta ask, do you guys believe that the best matchup defensively wise for Kalinic will be to try and stop Papa Nicolau, or are you going to go big, meaning put the bigger body, Kalinic, Kalinic in terms of the guard forwards, and let him guard Spanoulis, like they did versus Panathinaikos with putting Kalinic on Mike James?
Yeah, they will do it.
I think we're going to see a good bit of rotation as well, though, on the defensive assignments. Like, I think we're going to see some Udo and Spanoulis and Kalinic and Spanoulis. I think Vesely and Princess is going to be an interesting clash on both ends. I think they're both going to see a lot of each other there.
Without a doubt.
And so you like, it's kind of a strange one in that we're confident in a lot of the matchups we're going to see, but we also, all of us, you can even see it in our faces watching this, there is that little shade of doubt of, we know we're not that smart. Like, we know there's stuff we can't pick.
Obviously, but there is this one thing we kind of overlooked, and I think it is time to bring it up. Guys,
I think it is.
Today will be, I believe, the first time since the very famous divorce between Coach Obradovic and Vispan that are actually going to meet.
It's the biggest story of
this is
I'll be to the Final Four. Yes.
But not just in the Final Four. We could not have asked for a better thing because they will meet in the final game. This is the first time that they meet since their divorce, and this is going to happen in the most important game of the season.
And it's like, it wasn't the happiest divorce, I think it's safe to say.
Someone got the kid, someone got the car, but mostly we got a lot of hatred between the sides.
I think that psychological part's going to play into it. I'm not quite so sure it's going to be that huge, though, because if anything, it's going to benefit, Spanoulis, because he likes to show up people who he feels, he's got a bit of a fight with. But at the same time, I don't think Zach's going to let it get to him. Like, I know Zach wasn't even looking at Billy during the pre-press conference.
But that's what he does. That's the thing. That's the mental warfare that he.
But for him, it's a case of I'm just here to win. Like, I don't think he's going to be thinking too hard about Billy in this one. I think he's just thinking about how do we win this. And don't forget, against Panathinaikos in the Greek playoffs for a long time when Zach was coach, Spanoulis couldn't get anything done. So Zach does know how to beat Vasilis Spanoulis in big games.
Well, they start with a very hard closeouts and low pressure, as they did with Real Madrid. Real Madrid was even not able to play with entry passes.
Well, that's the thing.
Down in the post.
That's the thing.
So I'm not sure how Olympiacos can deal with that.
Well, two major differences. The first one. But I do believe that if we're talking to preventing passing lanes, that's exactly what Olympiacos. Yes, someone just dropped something here that was good.
We are in a live press room, folks.
Yeah, you got to understand that. But going back to the thing with stopping the main guys, Olympiacos would have to break every shooter's play played for Bogdanovic, and that means that the ball will move to one side while the screens will move to the other side. So they will have to pay a lot of closer attention to that. Now, regarding to, it's something we couldn't have asked for something better, in terms of the mental warfare of the game for itself. But you know what? I know that Zach has beaten Spanoulis, but you said something with Sergio Yui. Now, Sergio Yui, when we're putting Yui in front of Vispan, the first thing that is noticeable as the biggest difference between these two guys is the fact that Vispan has the better frame, the bigger frame, a much muscular frame, which means it's going to be easier. Obviously, they're going to try to rough him. They're going to try to slow him down. But we do need to acknowledge the fact that on Friday, when they were playing Ceska, we got a lot of resting time for Vispan. The guy pretty much came back the fourth.
Yeah, no, he got his rest.
So they could kind of maybe do some things without him.
And I am bearing a bit of notice on the time here. We only have a few minutes left, guys, in the show. So before we get to our picks,
In the first part.
in this part, obviously, this is the pre-game. The post-game obviously will come along. Before we get to our picks, sum up how you see the game playing out in as brief as you can there, Meta.
Well, I'm seeing Fenerbahce starting very well on both ends of the court and getting it to like 7-8 point difference, and then expecting Olympiacos to trim the difference into like 4-5 at the half, and it will come down to the last shot.
Well, last time I said, Karid in 3, and you know what I meant. But, it didn't kind of work because Real never did manage to do that. So I will say Oli in 5.
Oli in 5, okay. So, so are you picking Fenerbahce there, Meta?
Yeah, I'm picking Fenerbahce.
My pick, it's been pretty obvious online for since the pre-show we had the last week. I'm sticking with it now. I haven't had any reason to doubt it. I'm going with Fenerbahce. It's pretty simple. I think they just have too many weapons for Olympiacos. They have the smarts to go with it. They have the character, and they have the crowd. Like this Fener side says, they don't believe in home court advantage. I think they're going to start believing later in this game.
No, listen, of course, obviously the home court can play a huge part, but imagine this. The sold-out crowd, everything goes, it's perfect. I mean, I know there was the Final Four in Tel Aviv. I mean, you cannot get a better experience than that for your fans or for your team, but it can go like either way, because imagine that the first few shots for Fener will not go in. And then all of a sudden, Oli makes the first shot. They show that they are the ones to have the first momentum. All of a sudden, the crowd goes quiet. The pressure is on, the heat is on, and now the players are playing, with a tremendous sense of there's something huge on our backs.
Okay, guys, we've got to wrap it up there.
Before we wrap it up, I will give you this. If the game goes with Fener's rhythm, obviously it's Fener's game. It can go either way, guys.
But you're picking Oli.
No, I'm picking Oli, but I'm saying that if Oli wins, it's by 5 points, not more than that.
Okay, I'm going Fener. I'm going to say reasonably comfortably, like 9-11. 9 to 11 points.
9 to 11 points,
Yeah,
all right? You?
Yeah, like
Double digits?
4-5.
All right, okay.
And listen, thank you from the entire Sweet 16 team. We will be back shortly-ish after full time of tonight's game. I think it's a good way of describing it.
Yes,
And we'll be there to give our final live show from Istanbul here. Thank you all for tuning in across Periscope, Facebook Live, and of course on YouTube with Eurohoops TV. For Moshe Barda and Mete Budak, I'm Emmett Ryan. Have a good afternoon and enjoy the final.
Listen, when we do the post game, you gotta understand we're gonna go something big. We're gonna give it